All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
And we are coming to you with the series on Revelation.
Right. So today we're in chapter 18. So if you're just tuning in, you got some makeup work to do and go back and catch all the previous chapters. And then you'll be ready for this one.
That's right. And Jake, we would ask people to do a few things.
Right. So check out the website, sabbathlounge.com, and then you would want to like and subscribe and ring the bell and all the things that indicate that you saw this video and want to see more videos. So
that's right. And we really appreciate the faithful that leave us comments and say things, and very nice. And we have some people when we go live that come in every time, and we always enjoy interacting with people all over the world, really. And that's fun when we get to do that. So we don't get to always go live, but when we do, we appreciate those of you that participate. So we are on a variety of platforms. If you have never heard of us before, from YouTube to Instagram to TikTok, all kinds of things. So if you Google Sabbath Lounge, you should find it. And but today we're doing Revelation 18, and so we went through Revelation and came up with some things. What did we do, Jake?
So basically, this is going to be not necessarily a study in and of itself, but a guide for your studies. We want you to go study it for yourself, but this is kind of going to show you different verses throughout the Bible that kind of correlate with ideas and themes in Revelation, so you can kind of spread out your study through the rest of the Bible and get some better idea of what Yah might be talking about, and with certain symbols and symbolisms and different concepts. So that's kind of, we just made some comparisons there with different verses that you can go back to and check out and compare.
Yeah, and this is not meant to replace a study clearly by you, but we hope to just provide a tool out there that might help you see some connections between the text, because you really, if you try to read Revelation in isolation by itself, you're going to miss a lot of things if you don't understand how it connects back and how there's common language between other verses. And so this is not 100% foolproof. You know, that we did look at a lot of resources, and there may be some scriptures every once in a while that are redundant, or you look at and go, why is that in there? And so it's not perfect, but it's a work in progress, and we hope that it's just useful to you.
That's right.
So we'll start with reading the Revelation portion, and we're going to be reading out of the Nog only because it's simple to read. But if you're going to really study Revelation, you're going to have to go back and look at original language, which is Greek, and something like the Blue Letter Bible helps you see that a little bit.
Right.
So anyway, so this will start Revelation 18:1, and I'll let Jake start.
All right. After these things, I saw another angel come from heaven. He had tremendous power, and his glory lit up the earth. He cried out in a powerful voice, "Fallen, Babylon the Great has fallen. She has become a home for demons. She is a prison for every evil spirit, every unclean bird, and every unclean and hated beast. All the nations fell because of the wine of her sexual sins. The kings of the earth had sex with her. Her luxurious wealth has made the merchants of the earth rich." I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of Babylon, my people, so that you do not participate in her sins and suffer from any of her plagues. Her sins are piled as high as heaven, and Elohim has remembered her crimes. Do to her what she has done. Give her twice as much as she gave. Serve her a drink in her own cup, twice as large as the drink she served others. She gave herself glory and luxury. Now give her just as much torture and misery. She says to herself, I'm a queen on a throne, not a widow. I'll never be miserable. For this reason, her plagues of death, misery, and starvation will come in a single day. She will be burned up in a fire, because Yahweh Elohim, who judges her, is powerful."
All right. So there's a theme. If you were here last time, I would encourage, if you're reading through Revelation, for sure read 17 and 18 together, because they're very much connected. And we continued to talk about her. We saw her talked about last week, and the sins that she participated in. It's kind of a continuation of last week.
That's right.
And there was something else I was going to show there, but we pointed out that there's a mention of these unclean beasts.
Right. Yeah, why would it use as a reference unclean animals if to a generation that doesn't concern themselves with unclean things?
Yeah. If this is at the end, so at the end of the age, the end of the time on earth, clearly this unclean animals is still a thing, although many people want to argue and say it isn't, but it's clear in multiple places that it still is. So, and verse 9. The kings of the earth who had sex with her and lived in luxury with her will cry and mourn over her when they see the smoke rise from her raging fire. Frightened by her torture, they will stand far away and say, how horrible it is for that important city, the powerful city of Babylon. In one moment, judgment has come to it. The merchants of the earth cry and mourn over her, because no one buys her cargo anymore. No one buys the cargo of gold, silver, gems, pearls, fine linen, purple cloth, silk, bright red cloth, all kinds of citron wood, articles made of ivory, and very costly wood, bronze, iron, marble, cinnamon, spices, incense, perfume, frankincense, wine, olive oil, flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, wagons, slaves. And I like how in parentheses it's like, that is humans.
Right.
Just in case.
In case you weren't aware.
The fruit you crave is gone. All your luxuries and your splendor have disappeared. No one will ever find them again. Frightened by her torture, the merchants who had become rich by selling these things will stand far away. They will cry and mourn, saying, how horrible for that important city, which was wearing fine linen, purple clothes, bright red clothes, gold jewelry, gems, and pearls. In one moment, all its wealth has been destroyed. Anything you want to say there?
Oh man, there's lots of stuff in there. I mean, part of it, one of the things that comes to mind on this is just that whole list of things you brought up that they're rich with, and how I think in Psalms you hear a lot of, when are the ones who are oppressing me going to feel your wrath. And it has to do with looking at the people carrying out evil acts and being successful in their lives also. And he's like, why is this happening? And you see that theme come back here with, the bad guys are successful. They're winning and they're doing very well for themselves in worldly ways. But, yeah. And then he comes at the right time to crush it. So
yeah, well, and there's no doubt that if you are dealing in all of these, I mean, in its day and age, this was the most valuable things in the world. So these things mentioned here, that people fought over these things. They traveled worldwide. They risked life and limb to go gather these things up and distribute and ship them worldwide in distribution. The internet is nothing new. This was a day and age when there was an internet, but it was ships and boats, and it took a lot longer. But it's the same thing. It's the transfer of goods and services and ideas from different parts of the world. But
just in a slower way, right?
Yeah, and clearly this idea of this Babylonian kingdom is, it's everybody trades with this thing. So it's very powerful, and it's coming to an end.
Yeah, and especially the people that are involved with this city,
Yeah.
they're standing back going, "Oh man,
Yeah.
I know I was involved with that. What's coming for me?"
Yeah, yeah, and they're sad, and their way of living is disappearing. Is what they see.
Right.
So
Yeah, go back up to the list real quick. So another thing I was thinking when you were talking about, these were things that in that time were very, the most important things to own. And I would argue that they still are. This list is still a list of riches. And I think the only thing missing out of here is going to be like oil.
yeah,
I mean, it has olive oil, but oil runs the planet right now.
well,
And weapons.
yeah, and that's a good point. And you think about cinnamon, spices, and that we take that so for granted because we go to the grocery store and these things are just there in a package, and you spend a few bucks and you get it, you bring it home. But the moment we don't have that kind of trade, your food would be so bland so quickly if you ran out of these things, because we've grown accustomed to having these things in our food, and so had they.
Right.
And these have become staples. So yeah, that's a good point. Still valuable today.
Yeah, and back in the day, I mean, wheat was your main food besides your meats. Wheat was your like non-meat food.
Yeah.
And it would sustain you because of the way it was grown and kept whole back in the day.
And you could preserve it easily.
Yeah.
So let's see. How far did we
I think
get?
we're on 17.
Too far.
Yep. Yeah. Every ship's captain, everyone who traveled by ship, sailors, and everyone who made their living from the sea stood far away. When they saw the smoke rise from her raging fire, they repeatedly cried out, "Was there ever a city as important as this?" Then they threw dust on their heads and shouted while crying and mourning, how horrible for that important city. Everyone who had a ship at sea grew rich because of that city's high prices. In one moment it has been destroyed. Gloat over it, heaven, Elohim's people, apostles and prophets. Elohim has condemned it for you. Then a powerful angel picked up a stone that was like a large millstone. He threw it into the sea and said, "The important city Babylon will be thrown down with the same force. It will never be found again. The sound of harpists, musicians, flutists, and trumpeters will never be heard in it again. A skilled craftsman, regardless of the type of craft, will never be found in it again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in it again. Light from lamps will never shine in it again. Voices of brides and grooms will never be heard in it again. Its merchants were the important people of the world, because all the nations were deceived by its witchcraft. The blood of prophets, Elohim's people, and everyone who had been murdered on earth was found in it."
All right. Anything stand out there that you want to say about that? Definitely a lot of mourning, a lot of sadness as people realize their way of living has been thrown away. And this line in 21 about the large millstone, makes me think of the line where Yeshua talks about if you teach the children to do bad things, it'd be better to have a millstone about your neck and thrown into the sea.
Yeah, it's just about time for the millstone industry to pick up, I think.
Yes, I think so. There's some candidates out there for sure. And that's something that's a little bit lost in our culture, because we still have millstones. And
I think nowadays it would be like you'd be wearing cement shoes.
Yeah. But yeah, the millstone concept was something everybody knew. But today, Frito-Lay, when they grind your corn chips, they still use some kind of a stone to grind them.
Yeah.
Even if it's a synthetic stone, but they're still grinding it with something like that. So,
yeah.
But anyway, definitely if that's, that makes a big splash. So, yeah, and it'll never be heard from again. The light will go out, and it specifically mentions witchcraft.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's kind of shoehorned in there almost.
Well, and it's something that that you didn't think about, or I certainly didn't think about when I was growing up. That that was just like, the witch thing. That's just this thing kids play. All the kids play like that, and
Right,
it
and witches
wasn't a
aren't
big deal.
real and that kind of thing.
But clearly they are.
And it's really, and I would say since coming to Torah, so my family came to Torah in like 2017, and just from the time coming into that, I've seen the witchcraft, like, I don't know, audience just explode. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh yeah, well, and it really picked up with the rise of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So when that came on the scene, she was, I can't remember what is her name, but when she wrote that, it kind of opened up the doorway for just a flood of things, and then the lady wrote the thing about the vampires, and then the floodgates just opened, especially in children's literature, and then it became like super popular, and I think that unfortunately that a lot of that magic is a gateway drug, if you will, for LGBT plus agenda. And I think that's because it is literally part of a spell.
Which is interesting because J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter series is against that stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's interesting. And I kind of look at that like, now hear me out. See if you agree with this, where I'm coming from. Like back in the 80s, and probably 70s too, you had a lot of like satanic rock music.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was satanic per se. I think it was satanic for the purpose of being rebellious. It wasn't specifically seeking out demonic entities. The majority of it. There certainly were some. I was
going to say there are a handful that for sure that knew what they were doing, but most of them it was shock factor.
Yeah.
Even if you look at a lot of the stuff Ozzy Osbourne did, he clearly fried many of his brain cells doing things he did, but it was a show,
right?
And it got people talking. It gave them publicity, and they're like, "Oh, did you see what he did?"
It's like the Alice Cooper, and that kind of thing. And so it's, I think similarly, the Harry Potter thing was a gateway to that, in that it was quote unquote harmless, and people not actually doing witchcraft. And then you have the other side of it where people are like, no, this is real, and this is how it's done.
But I think the difference, back in the 80s, it was a very niche market, and there was a very small audience that was for. And this, when the Harry Potter and the magic came on the scene, that went everywhere, and people got into it, and it became mainstream, and it came into churches. Right. And many churches were like, it's not, and many Christians were like, I let my kids read that. It's no big deal. It just was so much more widespread, on a whole nother level. And we're not saying that Ozzy Osbourne and Alice Cooper and all these people were good people
to be looked
and
up to,
upstanding members of society, and were only out for your best interest. That's clearly not the case.
Yeah, they were still, being rebellious was kind of the idea.
Yeah.
So there's those ideas where it's the innocence of something like a Harry Potter that is like you said, a gateway into, if you okay that, now what else are you going to okay? Yeah. And then it just rabbit trails. Yeah,
and put in the comments what you think about that. Have you seen that? I feel like I have personally, I don't feel like it, I know I have personally witnessed it in multiple children that I've seen that got into Harry Potter, and then when they're in junior high school, they start saying they're gay. And, are they connected? It's hard to believe they're not connected, especially if you're dabbling in witchcraft. So much of witchcraft is built on a twisted matriarchal deal anyway, especially with the witches, and it's all really weird, and in ways we will not discuss here. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah. And I think that, one of the stories I heard early on was Zach Bauer talking about he was at church and he saw kids come by with like filed teeth. They'd file their teeth down to be like vampire teeth. And he's like, that was a wake up call for him.
yeah, what are they doing at church camp?
Yeah. And then we can't bypass the fact that witchcraft here is pharmakia. And so
Very good.
I think we tend to, lump witchcraft into, you tie it into things like Harry Potter and stuff like that, but it's also pharmakia. That's where pharmacy comes from. So that's why you had a lot of people freaking out over the COVID vaccine, and, rightly something to be aware of and be watching for.
Yeah. And then also all the talk of, the serpent and the serpent bite,
Right.
it wasn't hard to see that these things all are connected. And maybe all that was a dry run for something that will really happen later. So
Yeah.
I guess it remains to be seen. But
So there's not much in this section is basically what we're saying, right?
yeah, hardly anything. So now we'll switch over to where we kind of put notes on it. And and like we said, if you want to follow along, you can use Sabbath Lounge as a resource, and we will leave this up there so you can see. So
Yeah, so you're just going to go to Sabbath Lounge and then over to the teaching, right?
yep.
Teaching series down to Revelation study, and then you'll find Revelation 18 there, and then that's where you can follow along. All right. As promised, I'll start.
Okay.
18:1. After these things, I saw another angel come from heaven. He had tremendous power, and his glory lit up the earth. So we're going to tie that with Ezekiel 43, verse 2. I saw the glory of the Elohim of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the sound of rushing water, and the earth was shining because of his glory.
Yeah, I think the connection is a being coming and lighting up the world because of their glory.
Yep.
And then 18:2, he cried out in a powerful voice, "Fallen, Babylon the Great is fallen. She has become the home for demons. She is a prison for every evil spirit, every unclean bird, and every unclean and hated beast." Then we'll go over to Isaiah 13:20. It will never be inhabited again, and no one will live in it for generations. Arabs won't pitch their tents there. Shepherds won't let their flocks rest there. Isaiah 13:21. Desert animals will lie down there. Their homes will be full of owls. Ostriches will live there, and wild goats will skip about. Isaiah 21:9. Look, here comes chariots and horsemen in pairs. Then he said, Babylon is fallen. It is fallen. All the idols they worship lie scattered on the ground. Isaiah 34:11. Pelicans and herons will take possession of the land. Owls and crows will live there. He will stretch the measuring line of chaos in the plumb bob line of destruction over it. It doesn't say plumb bob, does it?
It's the same
plumb
thing.
line.
It's the same
That's
thing.
right. Isaiah 34:13-15. Its palaces are covered with thorns. Its fortresses have nettles and thistles. It will become a home of jackals and a place for ostriches. Hyenas will meet with jackals. Male goats will call to their mates. Screech owls will rest there and find a resting place for themselves. Owls will make their nests there, lay eggs, and hatch them. They will gather their young in the shadow of their wings. Vultures also will gather there, each one with its mate. How nice. Jeremiah 50:39. That is why desert animals will live with hyenas. Desert owls will also live there. It will no longer be inhabited or lived in for generations. I'm seeing a theme. Jeremiah 51:8. Babylon will suddenly fall and be shattered. Cry for it. Bring medicine for its pain. Maybe it can be healed. Jeremiah 51:37. Babylon will become piles of rubble. It will become a dwelling place for jackals, something horrible, an object of contempt where no one lives. Zephaniah 2:14. Flocks will lie down in it with animals of every kind. Even pelicans and herons will rest on top of its columns. Listen, a bird will sing in a window. The doorway will be in ruins because Yahweh will expose the cedar beams. Revelation 14:8, another angel, a second one, followed him and said, Fallen, fallen, Babylon the Great has fallen. She has made all the nations drink the wine of her passionate sexual sins. So isn't it interesting, all of these unclean birds that it mentions?
Yeah, and all kinds of other unclean other animals. They love mentioning ostriches and owls for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
What's interesting is he throws in goats in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, go up. Right there. Jeremiah 51:8. Bring medicine for its pain. Wonder what the word is there.
I don't know. When you read the next one, I can look that up in the blue letter.
All right.
Maybe in time while you read it.
All right.
What was it, Jeremiah?
51:8.
51:8.
All right. Revelation 18:3. All the nations fell because of the wine of her sexual sins. The kings of the earth had sex with her. Her luxurious wealth has made the merchants of the earth rich. So again, we've talked about last time we brought up that idea of the wine and how that's symbolically used all throughout Scripture. So I think we're going to run into that in one of the tie-ins here. So.
Well, and the word we're talking about was balm.
Balm. Okay.
BALM. And it says balsam, balm, salve, merchandise as medicine.
Okay. All right. Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon was a golden cup in Yahweh's hand. It made the whole world drunk. The nations drank its wine. That is why the nations have gone insane. You don't see any of that, right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting. The idea of overindulgence. Wine isn't a bad thing. It's the overindulgence, and that's what Yahweh's talking about. It's the same as Sodom and Gomorrah. When it talks about what their sin actually was, it was being in abundance and not giving to those in need, not sharing that abundance with others. Was kind of the downfall that led them in the wrong direction.
And those people they were persecuting cried out.
Right. And so, I think that's a good example of, Yah tells us not to do certain things that sound mundane or minute. And, but once you see like that step off the path, where that leads down the road, that minute thing is actually very important because it does lead to death.
Yeah.
Okay, Nahum 3:4. Because of Nineveh's constant prostitution, this very charming mistress of evil magic, she used to sell nations her prostitution and people her evil magic. That sounds kind of clear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Very, very much a tie-in to Babylon.
All right. 1 Timothy 5:11. Don't include younger widows on your list. Whenever their natural desires become stronger than their devotion to Messiah, they'll want to marry. All right. Revelation 14:8. Another angel, a second one, followed him and said, Fallen, Babylon the Great has fallen. We read that one just last time. And then Revelation 17:2, which was last week. So that'll be familiar. The kings of the earth had sex with her, and those living on earth became drunk on the wine of her sexual sins. So yeah, that earlier when Matt said this theme would keep coming up, it's and read 17 and 18 together. It's basically that.
Yeah, well, it even started in 14. I mean, it's like if you don't see that, you're blind.
Yeah,
because he says it over and over and over. All right, Revelation 18:4. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of Babylon, my people, so that you do not participate in her sins and suffer from any of her plagues. Isaiah 43:6 says, I will say to the north, Give them up, and to the south, Do not keep them. Bring my sons from far away and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Isaiah 52:11 says, run away, get away from there. Do not touch anything unclean, get away from it. Make yourselves pure, you Levites who carry the utensils for Yahweh's temple. Jeremiah 16:14-16 says, this is why the days are coming, declares Yahweh, when people will no longer begin an oath with Yahweh brought out the people of Israel out of Egypt, as Yahweh lives, but they will say, Yahweh brought the people out of Israel out of the land of the north and all the lands where he had scattered them. As Yahweh lives, they will say this, because I will bring them back to the land I've given their ancestors. I am going to send for many fishermen, declares Yahweh, and they will catch the people of Israel. After that, I will send for many hunters, and they will hunt for them on every mountain and every hill, and even in the cracks in the rocks.
That is an incredible scripture.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has tie-ins to a second Exodus
for sure.
discussion. You could also, though, relate this to the time of Yeshua, because that's where he sends them out 2 by 2. But the fulfillment of that isn't in this verse, but that's kind of like a beginning of it.
Well, clearly these are the people that heeded the warning and they came out of Babylon.
Yeah.
So it's like a, before and after. And so because they came out of Babylon, he's able to go fetch them.
Right. That land from the north.
Yeah.
Land of the north.
And it's a beautiful picture too, of basically saying, you cannot hide. I will find you. I will look and spend every resource I have to find my people, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think that out of the land of the north, I think land of the north is a euphemism. I think it's talking about, I think typically in that culture, Hebrew mindset, the land of the north would be like out of darkness or out of a mysterious place, basically, is kind of how it's used. So it's not necessarily speaking of a direction.
Right. Yeah. Referring to Gentiles or Gentile nations.
Yeah,
not Israel.
Yeah, I think this is talking about
Northern Kingdom,
from the dark recesses of the earth.
Yeah. Jeremiah 58 says, run away from Babylon. Leave the land of the Babylonians. Be like the male goats that lead the flock. Jeremiah 51, 4-6. Babylon soldiers will fall down, badly wounded, in the streets. They will lie dead in their own land. Israel and Judah haven't been abandoned by their Elohim. Yahweh Tessaboth, although their land is guilty of abandoning Kodesh Israel. Run away from Babylon. Run for your lives. You shouldn't die because of Babylon's crimes. This is the time of vengeance of Yahweh. He will pay the people of Babylon back for what they have done.
Yeah, it's another example of, people want to just, get in their hole and just hide in it to wait out the events. Sometimes there's a time to flee, time to bug out.
Mm-hmm.
So, just something else. Not always shelter in place.
Yeah, well, and that is actually a military strategy. If you talk to military people, they will tell you when you're outnumbered and outmanned and outgunned, sometimes the best strategy is to get out of there.
A strategic retreat.
Because you stay in there, it means you die for sure. But if you get away, you might have a chance. Jeremiah 51:9 says, we wanted to heal Babylon, but it couldn't be healed. Let's abandon it and go to our own land. Yahweh has judged Babylon. Its judgment is complete.
Man alive, if that doesn't sound like the world right now.
Yeah.
Let's do all we can to get Trump in, and he'll heal the land. Mm-hmm. If you're expecting Trump to heal the land, it's you got a you problem going on.
Yeah.
It's the people's hearts need to be repentant for the land to be healed. Yeah. Now Trump can be a lightning rod for that kind of activity, but
he can be used, good or bad.
Right. But I just think that's super interesting and very timely.
Yeah. Jeremiah 51:45 says, "Leave it, my people, run for your lives, run from the burning anger of Yahweh." Zechariah 2:6-7 says, "Hurry, hurry, flee from the land of the north, declares Yahweh. I've scattered you from the four winds of heaven. Hurry, Zion, escape, you inhabitants of Babylon." Zephaniah 3:19 says, "At that time I will deal with all those who have overpowered you. I will rescue those who are lame. I will gather those who have been scattered. I will make them praised and famous. I will make them praised and famous in all the world, though they had been ashamed." Micah 4:10, "Daughter of Zion, writhe in pain and groan like a woman in labor. Now you will leave the city, live in the open fields, and go to Babylon. There you'll be rescued. There Yahweh will reclaim you from your enemies." 2 Corinthians 6:17 says, the Master says, "Get away from unbelievers, separate yourselves from them, have nothing to do with anything unclean, then I will welcome you." There's that unclean thing again.
Right, that Micah verse is interesting too. So this has them running toward Babylon. So that's similar to Daniel. Basically, they're told, if you try to run, what does he tell them? Basically, he's telling them if they try to escape, they'll die. So they need to go with Babylon when Nebuchadnezzar comes in.
Yeah.
Again, it's it depends on the timing. It depends on what's going on. But there's times for withdrawing, and then there's times for moving forward. Like Matt was saying, there's strategic things happening there.
Yeah.
Oh, go back up to the actual verse there again, the Revelation 18 verse. So I think a lot of people too, once I came into the Torah movement, would say this, "Come out of her, my people." And they're, I think depending on who you would talk to, that her, the Babylon, would be different things. And for some people I know that they would say that's the church. So they would look at people that come to Torah and continue to go to church as like, you're not coming out of Babylon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, it's, I can't necessarily say that that's wrong thinking, but I think it's only part of the story and how you come out of that. Because again, we see them going into Babylon too.
Yeah.
We see Jonah going into Nineveh. There's those kind of events too.
Well, it just can be kind of unkind, and if you're new to Torah, if you approach that wrong, you may burn some bridges with people that you love dearly. That you could really hurt their feelings if you press this, and it in a way belittles them or takes away something from them, because most of the people, they don't understand, and there is a difference. These merchants know exactly what they're doing,
right?
And they're purposely feasting and making a living. Now that can happen in church, especially at the top with the pastor flying around in a Learjet taking all the money from the widows.
Right. Mega church isn't a size, it's an attitude.
Yeah. And so the people that are leeching off the top, I think for sure they are like the mystery Babylon, unfortunately. But most of the people at the bottom of the organizations and the people doing all the work and doing all the stuff, they're not the ones living like a king.
Yeah, I think when you're trying to define, this here is Babylon, I think you're kind of getting into tricky territory. And I guess the way I would kind of put it would be similar to when we described what a wolf is versus a sheep, right? The idea that a sheep may not know, but a wolf doesn't want to know the truth, basically. It already has its mind made up, right? So like we talked with, I think we were talking with Will Walkie or
TikTok.
someone on TikTok. I can't remember exactly who, but we brought up the idea that it might have been Luke also
From
from
Churchianity.
leaving Churchianity, right? But we mentioned how he had discussed with a pastor friend of his that was saying how, well, these are, he would bring some Torah truth to him, or truth about like Christmas or something like that, and the guy would just kind of, I know, but it's not a big deal, that kind of thing. And then I think he said something like, well, are you going to tell your congregation those things? And it was like, no, not really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was him.
And it was like, so the guy may not be a wolf, but that's definitely wolf behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So similarly, the church may not be Babylon per se, but it definitely has Babylon behavior a lot of times.
And there may be elements of it.
Right. So it's more that idea of understanding Babylon behavior and separating from that.
But in the grand scheme of things, too, most of us that are in this movement today, we started in church,
right?
And it was a progression. Church is a version of coming out of Babylon, but there's more to it. If you study, you'll see that there's more to it. If you have the eyes to see it and the desire to see it, y'all will show you these things like he did us. But it's a process, and I think that going to church is just it's a good place to start for most folks. But if your eyes get open to some of these things and you stay in it, then why are you there? If you see that this is happening and this isn't right, and they say certain things, then you probably should come out.
Yeah, and I think Yah will let you know when the right time is.
Yeah. But like we said, you have to approach all these subjects very carefully. Many people, you can talk to a lot of Torah people who can tell you terrible, sad stories of things that they did that really hurt people that they didn't really intend to hurt, but they did.
Yeah, and basically the problem with that is it hurts your witness, and now you can't witness to those people because of the way that you separated. There's a way to do it.
Yeah. You can be right and be wrong at the same time.
Right.
So
tact.
Many people have fallen victim to that, and it's how you say things and when you say things, and we've all had the family member at the family dinner that said the wrong thing to the cook at the wrong time. So that just that doesn't go well, especially if you like that cook to cook for you in the future.
Right.
So anyway, this is just life advice. Not that I would know.
Okay, Revelation 18:5. Her sins are piled as high as heaven, and Elohim has remembered her crimes. I wonder if that's a tie-in to Tower of Babel.
Maybe.
Sins piled as high as heaven. Jeremiah 51:6. Run away from Babylon. Run for your lives. You shouldn't die because of Babylon's crimes. This is the time for the vengeance of Yahweh, who will pay the people of Babylon back for what they have done. I think we read several of these maybe. Jeremiah 51:9. We wanted to heal Babylon, but it couldn't be healed. Let's abandon it and go to our own land. Yeah, we read that. Jeremiah 51:11. Sharpen the arrows, fill the quivers. Yahweh will stir up the spirits of the kings of the Medes, because his plan is to destroy Babylon. Yahweh will avenge his temple.
All right. And then Revelation 18:6, do to her what she's done. Give her twice as much as she gave. Serve her a drink in her own cup, twice as large as the drink she served others. Psalm 137:8 says, you destructive people of Babylon, blessed is the one who pays you back with the same treatment you gave us. Isaiah 33:1, it says, how horrible will it be for you, destroyer, although you haven't been destroyed. How horrible it will be for you, traitor, although you haven't been betrayed. When you finish destroying, you will be destroyed. When you finish being a traitor, you will be betrayed. Ezekiel 39:10 says, they will not need to get wood from the field or cut down trees in the woods. They will make fires with the weapons. They will loot those who looted them, and they will grab things back from those who grabbed their things, declares Adonai Yahweh. Jeremiah 15:15 says, shout a war cry against them on every side. They'll surrender. Their towers will fall and their walls will be torn down. Since this is Yahweh's vengeance, take revenge against them. Do to them what they did to others. Jeremiah 50:29 says, call together the archers, the soldiers with bows against Babylon. Set up blockades around it. Don't let anyone escape. Pay the people of Babylon back for what they've done. Do to them what they did to others. They will have disobeyed Yahweh Kadosh Israel. Jeremiah 51:33 says, this is what Yahweh Tsebaoth, the Elohim of Israel, says. These people of Babylon are like a threshing floor. At the time it is trampled, their harvest time will come soon. And then Habakkuk 2:8, you have looted many nations. All the rest of the people will loot you because of the slaughter and violence done to lands, cities, and their inhabitants. So definitely a theme of what you've done to others is coming back to you.
Yeah, so yeah, that's Torah principle right there. You take someone to court and they're not guilty, and then you're accusing them, you get the same punishment, right? It's eye for an eye. It's several of those things. There's if you take someone's something or other, if you steal from someone, then you pay back twice as much or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. So the Torah commands. This is a Yahweh keeps Torah situation, I think.
Yeah,
he's going to pay them back twice what they gave out.
Yeah, and interesting how what would you call them? The New Age people call it karma, but it's actually, it's not karma. It's not anything weird. It's a principle that you find all through Scripture. It is repeated over and over from the Old Testament to the New Testament that what you dole out is going to be returned back to you, and if you are kind, that's going to come back. If you are a butthead, that's coming back to you too. So it says it over and over in different ways.
All right, Revelation 18:7.
Hang on just a second. Okay. Yep.
She gave herself glory and luxury. Now give her just as much torture and misery. She says to herself, I'm a queen on a throne, not a widow. I'll never be miserable. Isn't that funny how when you're on top, it's like, oh, I'll always be on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at like the top Fortune 500 companies, they're always different, 10 years down the line.
Or the Dallas Cowboys.
America's
team. They are not on top this year.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So put in comments if you are a Dallas Cowboy fan. Or if you hate them. Right now, many...
We'll get no comments because everyone will be afraid to admit one way or the other.
That's right. I did see the best meme about that was a guy that he was saying there was a cartoon, and at his funeral he paid Dallas Cowboys to let him down into the grave. And the caption was like, I want to be let down by the Cowboys one more time. So if you can relate to that, there you go.
Bringing the hard facts here.
That's right. Sports, go team.
Ezekiel 27:3. Tyre is the city at the entrance to the sea. It's the merchant to the nations. Say to Tyre, this is what Adonai Yahweh says. Tyre, you used to brag about your perfect beauty. Ezekiel 27:29-31. All the rowers, the sailors, and all the marines. Call in the marines. All the mariners came down from their ships and stood on the shore. They cried loudly and bitterly over you. They put dust on their heads and covered themselves with ashes. They shaved their heads because of you and put on sackcloth. They cried over you with bitterness and with bitter mourning. Ezekiel 28, 2 through 8. Son of man, tell the ruler of Tyre, this is what Adonai Yahweh says. In your arrogance, you say, I'm a god. I sit on Elohim's throne in the sea, but you're only human and not a god. Although you think you are a god, you think that you are wiser than Daniel and that no secret can be hidden from you. Because you are wise and understanding, you've made yourself rich. You've saved gold and silver in your treasuries. Because of your great skill in trading, you've made yourself very wealthy. You have become arrogant because of your wealth. This is what Adonai Yahweh says. You think you are wise like Elohim. That is why I am going to bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless foreigners among the nations. They will draw their swords against your fine wisdom and dishonor your greatness. They will throw you into a pit, and you will die a violent death in the sea.
Okay.
Man, Yahweh has like the best smack talk.
Yeah. Yeah. It is the drop the mic usually at the end. And definitely this connection to Tyre is pretty fascinating because you see it in the Old Testament works, and the enemies you see at the front of the book are the enemies at the end.
Right.
And we're working on that. So we're working on a series that we'll do maybe January, February this year where we go through that.
Yep, that'll be a good one. It's interesting too that section because you think about like socialism and communism, they're set up to make the government God. And so when your country is led by that, you run into this situation, you think you're prosperous because of your God status. And really, you're successful in spite of it. Mm-hmm. And Yahweh's going to put the hammer down on you.
Yeah.
I think his patience gets, looked at as weakness or because he's patient, people will say, well, nothing's happening, so he doesn't exist. Right. So I think it's a dangerous game to expect that, but it's his patience being twisted into something it's not.
Yeah.
Isaiah 47:7. You said, I will always be a queen. You didn't carefully consider these things or keep in mind how they would end. Yeah, very, very like the Revelation 18 scripture. Jeremiah 50:31. I'm against you, you arrogant city, declares Adonai Yahweh Sabaoth. Your day has come, the time when I will punish you. Zephaniah 2:15. Is this the arrogant city? Is this the city that used to live securely, the city that used to think to itself, I'm the only one and no one else exists but me? What a wasteland it is now, a resting place for wild animals. All who pass by it will hiss and make an obscene gesture.
I don't think I've ever noticed that the obscene gesture was in there.
Yeah, they're flipping people off when they
I guess so.
1 Timothy 5:11. Don't include younger widows on your list. Whenever their natural desires become stronger than their devotion to Messiah, they'll want to marry.
Yeah, that's the second time we've had that one in there.
Yeah.
I'm not quite, I guess because it's a widow on that one, so not sure that's a perfect tie-in, but that was what tripped it. What was I going to say? It is interesting though. I don't know. What I was going to say is we're coming up on an hour, and so we may read this one, and then we may stop and make this a part 1 and part 2.
Oh yeah, we got a couple long ones coming up.
We got a long way to go. And speaking of hammering down, we got to hammer down. All right,
put the hammer down.
So Revelation 18:8. For this reason, her plagues of death, misery, and starvation will come in a single day. She'll be burned up in a fire because the Master Elohim, who judges her, is powerful. Isaiah 47:7 says, you said, I will always be a queen. You didn't carefully consider these things. We think we just read that, huh?
Yeah.
Jeremiah 50:31, I'm against you, you arrogant city. So we just read that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So this talk between these two sections here about the arrogant city makes me very much think about the arrogant horn, the braggadocious horn that comes up and brags.
Right.
So, anyway.
Good tie-in.
Jeremiah 50:34, their Goel is strong. His name is Yahweh Tessaboth. He will certainly take up their cause in order to bring rest to the land of Israel and unrest to the people who live in Babylon. Zephaniah 2:15, is this the arrogant city? Is this the city that used to live securely? The city that used to think to itself, I'm the only one and no one else exists but me. What a wasteland it is now, a resting place for wild animals. All who pass by will just read that, will make the obscene gesture. So, yeah.
Matt, you don't have to make the gesture. We get it.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It said to make it, so and I was passing by it, so. All right, well,
just trying to do what it says.
That's right, just trying to be obedient here, apparently. Yes. So, do we want to read one more or stop it here? Maybe we read this one and then we'll stop it, or is that? Ooh, that's a long.
That's a long one.
Yeah, maybe we do this one by itself, because that'd be a silly place to start.
Yeah. All right, so 18:10. Frightened by her torture, they will stand far away and say, how horrible it is for that important city, the powerful city Babylon. In one moment, judgment has come to it. James, wait, I think we skipped one. I think we skipped 9. 9.
Oh, did we skip it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, you ended on the
sorry.
obscene gesture. No, that's right.
Yeah, sorry.
Revelation 18:9. The kings of the earth who had sex with her and lived in luxury with her will cry and mourn over her when they see the smoke rise from her raging fire. Ezekiel 26:16. Then the princes from the coast will come down from their thrones. They will remove their robes and take off their embroidered clothes. Dressed in terror, they will sit on the ground. They will tremble constantly and be shocked at you. Ezekiel 27:35. All those who live in the coasts are horrified because of you. Their kings are terribly afraid. Their faces show their fear. Jeremiah 50:31. I'm against you, you arrogant city, declares Adonai Yahweh Sabaoth. Your day has come, the time when I will punish you. Jeremiah 50:34 we read. 1 Timothy 5:11 we read.
Okay. Yep. Some similarities there. And then you read 18:10, but James 5:1, pay attention to this. If you're rich, cry and moan about the misery that is coming to you.
Ooh.
So definitely kind of a connection between this horrible thing. So anyway, so we are kind of halfway through Revelation 18:10, and we'll make this a 2-part section here. So, but once again, if you are new to this, you can find this on the Sabbath Lounge website, and that's where you can find this information.
That's right.
And we appreciate it if you like, share, subscribe, do all those things.
Great. There's a lot in this one, so take your time going through it, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, this is Matt
and Jake
signing out.